Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker with Tools. Last week I introduced you to the new M18 compact kit that features the compact drill driver and this compact impact driver. But how does it compare to the other compact impact drivers that are on the market today? Let's go ahead and find out on Tinker with Tools. Alright, so last week we introduced you to the 3650-20, the new compact impact driver from Milwaukee. This is the variable speed only version. It doesn't have any speed modes on it, but they do have a 3-speed or 3-mode impact driver version of this that is 3651. Now there are a lot of things that are impressive about this impact, but first and foremost is just the size. It is a very small, compact impact driver, and it certainly is going to feel more compact than a lot of the competition that's out there. Additionally, at 1,700 inch-pounds of torque, it is bringing a decent amount of power, especially for its size. But I think the thing that stands out the most when you use it is just the speed of the impact driver. This features up to 3,600 RPMs and 4,900 impacts per minute, which is easily the fastest that I've ever seen. Now, as I showed you last week, this will outperform the M12 Fuel Impact, but it obviously gives up a couple of niceties that impact driver has. But how does it compare to the compact competition that we have out there? Well, I've got several models today. Let's go ahead and talk about each of them and let you know what we're going up against. All right, first from TTI, we do have the Rigid Gen 2 subcompact impact driver. Now, in terms of size, I do think this is the closest to the new M18 compact, but it is still just a little bit longer. Now, one claim this impact driver has is the highest torque figure of any of the impact drivers we're going to talk tonight, but in terms of speed, it is a little bit lower on the speed. It does come in with 2,900 RPMs and 4,200 impacts per minute. It does have 4 speed modes and offers a quick insert call it, so there are some things on this impact driver that not everyone here does offer, so it is definitely in the running. All right, so this is the compact offering that I've chosen from Metabo HPT. Now, we've talked about this impact driver before. We did a showdown against 2 other compact variants, and depending on where you go for the marketing or the product listing, they may not actually list as a compact tool, but in terms of how the kit compares in size to the other offerings here on the table, it is actually decent. It is not going to be the smallest impact, but it is fairly lightweight, and although it doesn't offer the most impressive specs on paper with the lowest torque figure, I find that in practical use, it actually is one of the better performers that I've tested in this segment. All right, and then earlier this year, Flex gave us the new compact lineup of their tools, and in it, they did have this impact driver, and this is going to be a 3-mode impact driver that features 1,700 inch-pounds of torque. Flex has really established themselves as a professional line, in my opinion, and how it compares to the other lines, and so I think this was a good comparison point for us to see as well. All right, and then that brings us to DeWalt. Now, DeWalt introduced their Atomic line several years ago, and when they first came out, they seemed like really, really compact tools on the market, and unfortunately over the years, other tools have just gotten significantly smaller. The impact driver, the DCF 809, is just not that compact. Now, does that mean it's a bad impact driver? Not necessarily, but if you're really going for compact, this is not going to deliver on as much on that compact, being more the size of a full-size impact driver from several years ago. So while this Atomic makes sense because it is sold in a kit with the drill that we're going to be testing next week, and it is their Atomic lineup, they do have 2 other offerings that at least make a little sense for us to entertain and see how they stack up in terms of performance. Now, the first is going to be the world's smallest impact driver, the DCF 850. Now, this came out a couple years ago with Atomic badging, so I guess in a way this is the 2nd generation Atomic impact and this is the 1st gen. But as we've shown in other videos, this actually features XR badging elsewhere, and the power and specs are actually very similar to the top of the line XR impact drivers that DeWalt offers. The other impact driver we're going to take a look at is the DCF 840. It is often the $99 brushless offering that you see over at Lowe's here in the US, and oftentimes when using it, it feels like the smallest, most compact impact driver. So we are actually going to run this one primarily against these tools, but I am also going to include the times of these just so we can see how it stacks up. All right, so we have a lot of different impact drivers to test tonight, so let's go ahead and show you some specs and comparisons, and then we'll jump right into the testing. All right, so now you've just seen the times on these impact drivers. So let's go ahead and talk about my conclusions or my impressions from using them. The Milwaukee M18 Compact here is certainly going to be the most compact impact driver that is going to be offered for quite some time. This one certainly delivers on being just a really compact overall body shape, and I think that is something that's going to stand out about it. Now, because it's offered at a premium price, I do think that it has to bring performance that's going to match some of that premium price. And in terms of how this compares to these first 5 impact drivers, it is certainly the fastest, quickest, most impressive impact driver to use out of this group. It is going to have the fastest times out of these 5 that you can kind of see up front here. The Metabo HPT is clearly the number 2, and it is a very nice, smooth impact driver to use. If you like the triple hammer, you'll probably like this impact driver. It's just not quite as quick as that triple hammer, but it certainly delivers more performance than what it shows on paper. The Flex is going to be your 3rd highest performer in terms of kind of these core 5. Overall, I think I was expecting more out of this impact driver, and although it has some nice things like the speed modes, it just has a couple of things about it, and its overall size and weight, because of the bigger battery, that just make it feel not as compact as these others. The Rigid is certainly going to be the one that I think lets you down the most in terms of how it compares performance-wise to these other impact drivers. It is almost as small as the Milwaukee, and when you see the specs that it puts out on paper, the 4 modes, the quick insert collet, I think there's a lot to like there, but the performance just leaves you lacking a little bit as it compares to the rest of this group. It consistently had the slowest times, and that was very noticeable in using it. Now, when it comes to DeWalt, I think, just like I've mentioned before, DeWalt's impact driver lineup is confusing just because of how many different product offerings they have. When Atomic came out several years ago, it was their new, compact, smaller offering, and at first the offering seemed rather small. But unfortunately, the rest of the market has really gone very small in terms of their compact 18 to 24 volt offerings, and that Atomic just isn't there. Now, we do have the DCF 850 that is probably going to remain the shortest impact driver for quite some time, but in DeWalt's old lineup, you do have the DCF 840 that is better performing than that and typically offered at a cheaper price. So it's kind of hard to sit here and tell you to go out and get the DeWalt kit, for example, when I don't feel like that is their most compact or best performing compact impact driver they have. And so with DeWalt, I probably would push you off to either the 840 or at least the 850 and get that more compact size than what you're getting with that. All right, so there you have it. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments which of these impact drivers you would choose to be running for your compact option if you're in the market for one. I'd love to hear what you think about them. I really do think the Milwaukee has a lot of impressive things to offer, and even though it has a couple of things that might concern people, like the amount of heat it generated in that last video I did, it certainly has some impressive performance given how small it is. If there's one thing I could plea with Milwaukee, it would be to give us a very compact Milwaukee Forge battery so we can pair some impressive battery tech with this tiny little tool and give us a really compact but very powerful option, like we see from the DeWalt 1.7 amp hour power stack. If you like the video, make sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. As always, thanks for the support, and until next time, I'll catch you on Tinker with Tools.